back to part 5 of our Chinese entertainment series. This is China through Singlasses. I am Jingnan.
And I'm Wu Fan.
Today we'll be discussing Chinese dramas. Yes, before we begin, we have to first give a disclaimer that we will be focusing mostly on mainland China dramas of the recent 2 decades. But before we go on to talk about that, we have to acknowledge the iconic, the god tier
Ancestors.
the ancestors, which is the Hong Kong dramas from mostly TVB from the 90s as well as like the early 2000s. They kind of died around the 2010s, but yeah, we just feel like we need to give that a special shout out because I grew up on those dramas, and sadly we will not be talking about them today because that is like a different era and it's a very different environment and context. So we'll be focusing on mainland Chinese dramas.
Okay, so moving on from the golden era, I would say, of Chinese dramas, the most popular genre for dramas in China's mainland is fantasy romance. So if you look at like the top 50 dramas from 2016, 47 of them were fantasy romance genres, and the fantasy romance genre can include historical romance or like wuxia, xianxia and stuff like that. So here are some examples: Ashes of Love,
香蜜甜甜烬如霜
Story of Yanxi Palace,
延禧攻略
Nirvana in Fire,
琅琊榜
The Journey of Flower,
花千骨
Eternal Love,
三生三世十里桃花
The Princess Wei Yang,
锦绣未央
Just One Smile is Very Alluring,
微微一笑很倾城
The Legend of Zhen Huan,
甄嬛传
Scarlet Heart,
步步惊心
The Mystic Nine,
老九门
The Untamed.
陈情令
Okay, hope you enjoy our rap. Our bilingual rap. Yeah, so like all of these shows have garnered billions of views among China's most popular video websites. So they're namely iQIYI, Youku, and Tencent Video. And in terms of like the global distribution, these films, as you can tell, they have like English titles and like there are audiences.
Some of them are on Netflix as well.
And there are like audiences all around the world, not just within the Asian sphere, but also like English-speaking audiences watching these shows. And most of them can also be found on CCTV 8, Channel 8.
Which like airs TV series and dramas all around the clock. So certain dramas like 还珠格格 is a very famous one that gets replayed every single year during the
throwback to our previous episode.
the summer holidays, yeah. So moving on to the different categories of Chinese dramas, like we mentioned, one very popular genre is the historical category for dramas. It can be subdivided into many different categories, including historical fiction, nationalist, historical reenactment. There's also other types of categories like wuxia, which is like kind of like kung fu, but not really. Okay, how do you describe wuxia?
I feel like wuxia is like a more nuanced take on kung fu because it's not just about punching people, it's also about like the entire world building and like having, it's like a different society apart from the real historical version of it. Sometimes it's embedded in a dynasty, sometimes it's not.
So it literally translates to martial heroes. It's a genre of Chinese fiction concerning the adventures of martial artists in ancient China. A lot of it is actually fictional. I mean, it is a fictional kind of genre because it can be credited to very well-known authors like Jing Yong, who writes novels on these like the adventures and life stories of these martial artists. It's like kind of like the best way I can think about it is, you know how English dramas or English productions have this fixation with like mobsters. Like
what?
Like it's kind of like that where it's an alternate way of life where their focus is not on, you know, paying taxes, like grains and like, you know, how inflation or being like earning money. Like, it's not about day-to-day life. It's their world is like in a separate world. So that's wuxia. And also there's also categories like police and politics, comedy, and more modern family conflict dramas. We will talk more about that like and give some examples as well.
Okay, so moving on, there's also 权谋剧, which focuses a lot on power play, and I would say this can go into the historical element. So for example, like 三国演义 could be like 权谋 because but for more modern takes on it, it could be like within a government political system, anti-corruption campaigns, or it could be like in a corporate setting and like different people are just fighting over stocks in the companies.
Yeah, but a lot of times like the epitome of 权谋剧, when people think about it, they often think about like those fictional period dramas that have people fighting for power.
Oh my god, is it like 1,000 emperor's sons then fighting
Yes,
for one?
kind of like that's just like
historical also.
yeah, that's historical, but 全国剧 is more like 琅琊榜. Like there's
there's a
琅琊
political struggle.
Yeah, political struggle and a mystery, or maybe like it kind of spans different genres, or like wide a variety of different genres as well, but it is really focused on like the power play. So a lot of times it's very masculine. There's a lot of male characters vying for power and like plotting against one another. It's that kind of like war porn. You know what I'm trying to say? Like no, like yeah, like people who are obsessed with war and like strategies.
Yeah.
Like the art
it's
of
like
war.
a real-time strategy game, but you watch it as a drama.
Yes.
Okay, actually, just a slight segue back into the wuxia. There's also like a small faction, okay, rather a very big faction now called xianxia.
Yeah.
So it draws from a lot of the wuxia premise, but it also involves like gods and like people, like
fairies,
demons,
supernaturals, demons.
yeah, and all that.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Okay.
Yeah, then moving on from power play to 推理剧, which as the name suggests is solving mysteries. It's kind of like Detective Conan or Sherlock Holmes, but it could be in like period pieces in ancient dynasties or like fictional dynasties, or it could be present day. So it could be literally like, you know, a traditional cop and detective kind of duo, and and or even other aspects of the legal justice system. So it could involve prosecutors, it could involve even like forensics. So yeah, these are very common elements in play when it comes to solving mysteries. Much more often than not, it's like murders and stuff. But yeah, this is something that is also exists in Western dramas as well.
I think for the China version of like 推理剧, a lot of them are very focused on like family conflict, and then like, very 细思极恐. At the end, you're like, oh my god, this person was actually related to this person, but they did this kind of thing.
There tends to be an element of like real life conflict and interpersonal drama that comes into play when it comes to murders and homicide. I don't know. Other things. There's also other types of mysteries, but most of the time it's this kind of things.
Okay, then moving on to an interesting aspect of Chinese dramas,
and it's very unique to China. I would say.
very unique to China. It's called 抗日神剧. Okay, so the name itself is also very interesting. It directly translates to defending China against Japan, and these dramas are like very nonsensical, sometimes supernatural. And it's usually set in the historical premise of the Sino-Japan War. It can involve scenes like the Japanese soldier is shooting you with a bullet, but the main character has plot armor and catches the bullet in mid-air.
Yeah,
and like
absolute nonsense.
Or like he uses his breath or something to like repel the bullet, or like he can use his hand to like just slice through things.
Yeah, okay, maybe it's not that kind of level, but it's just
legit have
things that don't make sense. Like it's kind of like an exaggerated version of, you know, that trope where the protagonist's gun never runs out of bullets. Yeah, like or the protagonist can run through like 枪林弹雨, like literal like storm of bullets coming at them, and it never not one single bullet hits them. That kind of vibe, and it's like one person kills an army of 20 people. That kind of vibe, but it's kind of taken to the extreme, like what Wu Fan has mentioned, to have actual things that defy physics and common sense. So it's not very popular amongst young people. It's more popular amongst
grandma's generation.
Older generations, much older generations.
I just want to say that my grandma is very obsessed with 抗日神剧. Like she actually watches it. I mean, I think for people who have gone through a certain period, right, that tumultuous period, they probably feel very shocked. They watch it, they're like, oh my god, hell yes! We can one person fight 20 Japanese soldiers. But honestly, historically, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
There were way less Japanese soldiers in terms of quantity than Chinese soldiers, but they did a lot more. Yeah.
It's just, I think it's like revenge porn, like, because
everything is some kind of porn.
No, but like it's okay. It's not porn in the literal sense of it being sexual, but in the sense that people fetishize it and they kind of fantasize about it because the Chinese feel so oppressed by the Japanese occupation during and the war crimes committed against China during the Sino-Japanese War in World War II.
Yeah.
They kind of retaliate in their own version of storytelling by making the Japanese as stupid, as ridiculous, as weak, as kind of incompetent, and like they just ridicule the Japanese.
It's a bit like rewriting history, but in a way that is so obviously not real that you can tell.
Yeah.
But it just feels good.
It just feels
Yeah.
good. Like you're just taking it out, you know, like retrospectively, many years later. But
Yeah.
I mean, we are not here to say that it's right or wrong. We're just saying that this is a very
It's a
unique.
phenomenon.
It's a very unique thing that I think is kind of special to China. I've not seen this in other countries that I'm aware of, you know. Maybe
Yeah.
there are other countries that have this kind of shows as well, but it's just very popular in China. Yeah. And another category is called 甜宠剧, which literally translates to sweet and doting dramas, where it's kind of brainless. It has the connotation of being brainless and low IQ, where the plot doesn't really make sense as well, and the premises have no kind of basis in reality. I saw this critique of one of the 甜宠剧 where the premise was literally the male lead and the female lead are two people who just moved in next to each other, and the male lead suffers from insomnia, and
Oh, I know that one. Okay.
and one random day they didn't fall in love. They were stuck in the same house for some reason, and they had to fall asleep on the same bed for some reason. And the guy realized that he can only fall asleep, and his insomnia is only cured when he sleeps in the same bed as the female lead.
Yes,
so
yes,
it's
yes.
like the premise makes absolutely no sense in real life.
Yes.
But it's basically like Wattpad come to life.
Yeah,
Like your
yeah,
fan
yeah.
fiction come to life. But but it's known to be brainless and just for the pure enjoyment of seeing someone being in a relationship that's really lovey-dovey and sweet and doting.
Yeah.
So hence the name sweet doting dramas.
Yeah, I guess it's like another form of like feeling shook, this time in the romance department.
Yeah.
And most of the time you're watching it because the male and female lead, not only do they look very good, they also look very good together.
Yeah.
And then on the point of insomnia, right, I feel like there's a trope recently in like 甜宠剧, which is like one of the characters has a certain physical ailment and only
yes.
the other person can solve it.
Yes, correct.
There was one, the female lead, she can't taste things, then she must kiss the male lead.
It's so stupid. I'm sorry.
Personally, I cannot consume it if the logic doesn't make sense. I cannot.
I know, but like some
Yeah.
people just want to switch their brains off at the end of the day.
But sometimes it's like, if you forego the premise, everything else is nice. Sometimes you just need a weird premise to make everything else happen. Then you can just, skip the premise and watch everything else out, I guess.
I mean, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah. And okay, the last one is 偶像剧, which is, I guess, a subset of 甜宠剧 also. Actually, no, both of them are subsets of each other. But anyway, this is like major credits to Taiwan actually for making this a thing. So just now we were paying our respects to the era of Hong Kong dramas. We also have to pay our respects to the era of Taiwanese dramas. Yeah. And the reason why we say that 偶像剧, which are like idolization dramas, are like subsets of the lovey doting dramas and vice versa, is because a lot of them are led by very popular young male and female leads, and then they do sometimes nonsensical things, but at the end of the day everybody seems to have a partner, and
like it's a romance, and the drama's focus is on the romance, and basically everything else is just there for shits and giggles. Like you don't really need to take it seriously. Yeah, and the like we mentioned before, like the target audience tend to be younger, tend to be more women, it's not meant to be taken very seriously and viewed as like art, or like you're supposed to analyze the plot or anything. You're just there for the fun of it. You're just there to see people be in love and see something that you don't have in real life.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, like, at the end of the day, watching a drama fills a certain gap in your imagination lah. So
it's like a form of escapism and also kind of living vicariously through the characters on the screen.
Especially characters that look very good. Then you imagine you're them.
Yeah, correct. Like you self-insert.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on from the categories, right? Of course, there are like generalizations. There are some like very outstanding examples in each. But because we are savage bitches, right? And we always have hot takes. So this will be like a diss track on C-drama tropes for this episode. Yeah. So the first one I'm gonna talk about is called 魔改大 IP, which is a phenomenon in China where IP represents intellectual property. So let's say a novelist writes a very, very logical novel with like complex world building, and the characters are driven by very logical motives.
Yes.
魔改 means, right, by some weird ass magic, you can make everything illogical and you don't follow the original plot when you create the drama and adapt it.
Okay, basically like as with English dramas as well, a lot of it is not original screenwriting. So a lot of it is adapted from existing works. It could be literature, it could be other things, but most of the time it's literature. So in China, there's a very hot phenomenon where people just take novels,
web novels,
especially, and they are wildly popular, and then they adapt it to be on screen. So kind of, I mean, this happens in the West as well. The only difference is that because of a lot of considerations due to, it could be the censorship laws, it could be the trends in the market right now. For example, what is trending in the market, it may not be those kind of power play or mystery or like high art kind of dramas. It might be more 甜宠剧, more silly things, more romance geared. So they would change, the screenwriter would actually have to adapt the original novel
just for the sake of the market,
to fit the current market trends, as well as maybe what the investors want, because the investors, at the end of the day, what investors want to see is maximalized profit and output. So they would want certain things. So for instance, if they invested in a particular actor that is very, very hot and famous right now, they would actually want that actor's role to be, to have more screen time, to be maximalized, without actually taking into consideration, does it make sense in this story for this role to have so much screen time, for this person to be talkative? Because sometimes roles, like certain characters, are quiet, but it doesn't translate well on screen, especially if the actor cannot act or something like that.
Which is true for a lot of these IP.
Yeah, so like long story short, in China, where capital and money comes first, I mean, as with a lot of capitalist countries these days, a lot of art, especially intellectual property, kind of get modified to the point where they are no longer distinguishable. That's why it's called 魔改. Like, it's like a demonic adaptation of the original source material. Yeah, and it's there could be many different reasons for it. It's just that it's very frustrating and agonizing for the fans of the original source material to be so excited. Like, your favorite book is
coming to life.
It's coming to life with real life actors, and then suddenly the plot is completely different. The characters no longer are the same. Like, it's a very out character.
Yeah.
Sometimes they even have different love interests. They even change the genders of the characters. And,
yes.
And the entire story just looks 面目全非, which is like completely indistinguishable.
Yes. So, we can tell that Jingnan is very pissed right now.
But basically, it's so prevalent that it's become a phenomenon that people talk about constantly, and it's like a meme.
And people don't, like, nowadays fans will be like, don't ruin my work. Like, sometimes fans might even say, I'd rather not have this be adapted into a drama, so that it can stay in my imagination as a perfect 2D novel.
Yes.
Yeah. And there have been instances of like the original novel writers coming out to say, I don't want my work to be adapted, or at first they were part of the production production team, and then because they realized the shit that's going down, they decide to leave the production team because they can't bear to see this happening to their work. It's
really frustrating.
Yes.
So moving on to another phenomenon that is known as like 狗血剧情. So this has to do with more of the plot. So 狗血剧情 literally translates to like dog blood plot lines, but what it really means, if you translate it properly, it means like cliche or corny and predictable plot lines or like plot points. So here are some that we found online that we think is absolutely hilarious. Whenever someone hears a bad news, whatever they're holding in their hands, probably like a bowl or a cup,
something that will make noise when it's dropped,
or like something that will break, will definitely drop onto the ground and break.
Yes. And then there'll be like a close-up shot of the thing breaking.
Yes, correct. And whenever something terrible happens, especially if it's very sudden and abrupt, whenever the character hears the news, they will rush outside for whatever reason, and the weather will definitely be like pouring rain and
like
thunder.
Suddenly there's thunder, then they will look up feeling very lost, and then rain will
and they will get drenched.
Then they will stay there in the rain because they're emo.
And then whatever you want to say before you die, you will never be able to finish your last sentence. Like, you'll always be like you, especially when it comes to like certain mysteries, you'll be like, beware of him. Then you're like, who is him? And then you're like, and then he dies. You know, like the person dies.
The inheritance is hidden in.
And then if you do not knock before you go into someone's house or like room, you definitely meet two things. First one is like someone hangs themselves and dies, or like some people are like certain people are, you know, having sex or making out. And oh my god, this is another trope that Chinese dramas love. So Chinese dramas, for whatever reason, love to have cross-dressing, but not like the drag you're thinking of, like, you know, cross-dressing in that kind of context. Cross-dressing as in women, most of the time, is women cross-dressing as men to fit into the society. It usually happens in period dramas because in ancient China, it's very patriarchal. In order to justify women being in public, they have to dress up as men, which is a real phenomenon that happened in ancient China as well. But anyway, so women cross-dressing as men will definitely be spotted in the following 4 ways. First way, which is your hair gets kind of like detangled and you reveal that you have long hair. Which makes no sense.
Because men in the past also had long hair. Because they cannot cut their hair. It's like, it's a gift from your parents.
Your body is a
人之
gift.
发肤受之父母.
So both men and women had long hair in ancient China. So you suddenly showing off that you have long hair in modern context
Just shows that you're a human.
just shows that you're a human.
That is not balding.
Like, it doesn't make sense. Okay, that's the first one. The second one is you will fall into water. Like, the characters will fall into water and they will like be revealed that they are a woman this entire time. Or the third one, which is the male character will accidentally come into contact with the female character's chest, and then they'll be like, why is this squishy? I don't know.
Maybe it could be a moop.
I don't know. But anyway, then the last one is like when they change clothes, they will be, you know, discovered. Like, tangential side note, if you watch the 1998 version of Mulan, the Disney original animation, I think they did a very good job of justifying why Mulan's identity got revealed, which was she got injured. And she had to, you know, the doctor had to undress her and like dress her wounds, and then the doctor was like, she's a girl. Like, I feel like that is a very good, not cliche way of justifying why
and it fits into the context.
And it fits into the narrative of what she did, which is she got injured while saving the rest of her comrades.
She's on battlefield. She actually will get injured.
Like that makes sense, you know, as compared to like suddenly your hair, for whatever reason, your hair unravels in public and everyone's like, oh, even though everyone has long hair, okay, never mind.
No, but the thing is, the unraveling scene will always have a close-up of the beautiful flowing hair sponsored by
slow motion.
Sponsored by some conditioner. Like that.
And like it will be like 360, the hair will be like whipped, like it's so bad. Okay, then if a good person is hiding in like someone's house, the bad person, no matter how they search the premises, they will not be able to find the good person. And like, it's just so stupid. And then bad people, if you stab them once, they never die. Like, they will fall down and they will look like they passed out, and then they will come and try and kill you again. I mean, this is a trope, I feel like, not just in Chinese dramas, in horror movies as well, like in Western horror movies, like, it's so agonizing. Every time I'm like, can you just make sure the person died the first time round?
Exactly.
And then another one is like, when the female character's love interest or hero dies, like the female character will have one single drop slowly rolling down the side of their cheek, you know?
I feel like that one is also like Western also.
Yeah, universal trope. But some of it is like the hair thing is really very funny.
I feel like nowadays there's also one, like, no matter what happens, you will end up kissing. You fall out of a tree, you will end up kissing. Or like, you fall onto the floor, you end up kissing.
Like, it just, there will be very bizarre circumstances. Like, you'll fall down and you'll fall into someone.
Yeah.
And like, someone will
somehow you will spin around and your lips have like magnetic force and you'll be attracted to each other.
I feel like K-drama also have this trope.
Yes.
Like, it just justifies bodily contact in some whatever way that they can find.
Yes.
Like, if they want to speed up another thing that I feel like is a trope is characters who are reserved, rigid, and, you know, very formal, like quiet or any, like they are very stern. They will definitely get drunk at some point, and their more playful self will like reveal, or they will be less formal or whatever. Like, characters getting drunk and like either going to bed with one another or just kind of getting to know each other better because they're suddenly vulnerable is a very common theme in Chinese dramas as well.
But it's also like a very cheap way to push the plot. Like, you can so many other ways, but why must it be like you go to the hotel in a rainy night, then there's only one room left?
And it must be a queen size room.
Yeah, one day only. Yo, please.
It's really like fan fiction. It's so funny. I mean,
seriously.
the reason why it's called cliche is because it's so overused, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, moving on to a more like character tropes.
Okay, so we split out the character tropes into two big genders because gender binary and everything in China. So the first female character trope is called 大女主, and 大女主 is like literally translates to like big female lead, but big here represents something like having being the main character and having the character development to like achieve big things.
I feel like the English translation would be strong independent woman.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I was trying to like generalize it too much. But yeah, and like nowadays a lot of the 大女主剧 will be something like this person is starts off from a position of very low power, maybe like very restricted by society, and then over time, because of their moving persuasive words or something, they like garner the support of, okay, take note here, a lot of men in the show, and then somehow they end up being, let's say, like the empress or like the head of some organization or stuff like that. But the problem with 大女主剧 is that it's a label that a lot of drama productions throw around, promising audiences that, okay, we will show you a female lead who is a strong independent woman who can do a lot of things, and she will embody like whatever you want a modern woman to be, even
And
in
female empowerment.
Yeah, female empowerment, hashtag. But the thing is, right, it's more like male empowers female or like male does something to help the female. It's like, this is a very sad fact in a lot of Chinese 大女主剧. So like, it's like 小女主 lah, honestly.
Yeah, so essentially, it's very much like they will always advertise it and throw it around like, oh, this film has a very strong female lead, strong female characters. But in reality, the female characters are often reliant on the male characters for their support and their aid, especially when it comes to, because you see, part of the reason why it is this way is because they want to have a bite of their cake, and as like they want to eat the cake and have it as well, in the sense that they want to have the female empowerment. They want to be like, we are progressive, we are, you know, giving women more power, we are making them that independent characters, like we are making
fitting
them
into the current social narrative.
social
like we're
narrative,
trying to go into
like
that,
we are trying to give women,
we are hashtag progressive.
we are hashtag, so they want that, but at the same time they also want to appeal to women who want to feel protected. They want women who want to be able to feel safe, in the sense that like that they can rely on men. So more often than not, these strong, quote unquote strong female characters will run into trouble, and the people who come and save the day is not themselves but their partners or like their love interests. So it kind of defeats the whole purpose of you having these strong, quote unquote strong female characters when they can't solve their own problems, when they can't be self-reliant and truly actually independent.
And I feel like it's how do I say this? Like the dramas honestly nowadays kind of miss their mark if they suggest 大女主 but they don't actually deliver, because I mean audiences nowadays are not dumb, and there are certain things that they are demanding that the production side is not sensing still, or maybe they are still catering to a market that's big enough for them to forego the people who are disappointed. Yeah.
So moving on to the second type of female character trope, is called 傻白甜. So this is another one that's very, very, very common. 傻白甜 literally translates to dumb, fair, like pale, that skin tone is pale, and sweet. So these three words encompass the characteristics of this female character, in the sense that this female character is often innocent, naive, fair in the sense like pretty, like fair is pretty because of Chinese beauty standards, but also like fair as in kind of like a blank sheet of paper, and Tian in a sense like sweet, innocent, just very kind. So a lot of the criticism towards 傻白甜 is that they are like Saint Mary's, like they just don't have any redeeming qualities in terms of being capable and actually independent, other than being kind. You know those kind of characters where you're like, how are you still alive? You amount to nothing. You have no way of sustaining yourself. You have nothing to offer in terms of being an actual person, in terms of skill set and capabilities. You have nothing to offer other than the fact that you're kind. Like, I'm sure, yes, kindness is very, very important, but when that is your only redeeming quality and you rely on everybody else for everything else, then it's very hard for you to root for that character or even like that character. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, you need to be more than kind in order to survive in this world. So
like the message a lot of these dramas is trying to send is like, if you're kind enough, you can touch everybody's hearts and empower people to do good around you. So you yourself just by virtue of being kind. Don't need to have any capacity.
Don't
do
have
anything.
any skill sets.
Yeah, just
like,
exist.
It's always this stupid trope of like the female. It's always the female characters that are destined to be kind because it's seen as somewhat of a feminine trait.
You know the 圣母白莲花?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so like
it's like what 圣母白莲花, Saint Mary, who's like pure like a
White
lily.
Lotus.
Yeah, White Lotus.
So it's very much like this young naive girl who fumbles around and is very oftentimes clumsy for whatever reason. And like they don't know how to do anything. Okay, you know what it is? It's 50 Shades of Grey. You know, okay,
my God.
I didn't read the book, neither did I watch the movie, but I know the premise. This girl, she doesn't know anything. She goes to interview someone goes to interview the CEO of a company without a pen or paper or computer or anything.
Damn.
And then she literally falls down and the guy is like, oh wow, she's so unique. She's so special.
Nobody has ever fallen down.
I must fall in love with her. Like it's the same vibe. Like the character would be like so stupid and so naive, but she'll be so kind. She'll preach at the people around her. And the male characters will all fall in love because she's like, she's so kind. I've never seen anyone so kind. I must help her. Yeah, but she doesn't do anything on her own, and it kind of just in Chinese is 降智, like it lowers the IQ of the character. You're infantilizing the character. You're rendering her helpless. All for like, I mean, again, to feed the market of those viewers who like to feel like they're being protected by strong men. Nothing wrong with that, but when you make all your characters exactly the same and there's no diversity and you are essentially patronizing women, it's very frustrating.
Yeah. Okay. Then moving on, there's also like the seemingly flip side, which is the 恶毒女二. So 女二 means the second female lead, and she is usually
like supporting actress.
Yeah, and she's usually like cast in a very tropified evil light, where like everything she does is because she is jealous that the female lead is getting attention from other people. And usually, right, the makeup style is like the main character's makeup, very pinkish, very
like minimal makeup.
Yeah, very hashtag natural.
Girl next door.
No makeup look. And then the 恶毒女二, right, will have like the smokiest eye and like
red lip.
Yeah, or like her lip color looks like she's been poisoned or something. And yeah, it's just tropified. Yeah, like it just makes the like one look you know who's good and who you should root for. That kind of
poor
stuff.
character design. I mean I won't. It's very stereotypical and it's poor character design in the sense that it's like, you know, when you watch Disney movies for kids, like the animation. Okay, not saying that Disney movies are for kids. I'm a Disney adult. But like when you watch Disney movies, their primary target audience is children. Yeah. So their character design has to be very clear from the get-go. Like the villains are typically in very dark color schemes and color palettes, like purples.
Colder also.
Yeah, purples, blues, blacks. Very angular. They are usually drawn like much more angular instead of like
a lot of triangular shapes.
Shapes. Yeah. And they're either very obese or like very, very skinny. I don't know why.
Ugly.
They're just supposed to be like conventionally ugly.
Yeah.
Whereas the good people, like the good guys, are always like, you know, rounder, softer, brighter colors, smilier, fairer, you know, but you get the idea. So it's kind of like the same thing, but the problem that I personally have with this trope is that it villainifies women for no particular reason. Like like you mentioned, good characters have valid character motives. Yeah, you can understand why they are doing the things they are doing, and it doesn't justify the bad things that they do, but at least you can empathize with them, and it seems realistic.
They seem human. They have their flaws, and that's why they make certain decisions.
Yeah, but the thing is, when your entire character motivation is just jealousy and envy, even though like I mean, sure, we are all human beings that feel jealousy and envy from time to time. But do those two emotions, just think about it. Do you know anyone in your life, or are you personally making all your decisions and actions out of pure jealousy and envy for another person in your life? No, what? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, who is that jealous of somebody that their life surrounds that person?
Like,
you know?
you actually like pull down the entire person's kingdom just because that person.
For what?
Yeah. And another thing is like, once again, it makes women feel like they're just like subordinates to men, because this person's jealousy might just be because they
male
don't
attention.
Yes, exactly. Like, it's just the whole male gaze lah. Like, I am jealous of you because I don't get attention from this guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. Like basically it lacks character depth and like, you know, kind of 3Dness. Like, it just, why are you as a character revolving your entire life around another character. Don't you have your own personal goals, motivations, likes and dislikes, you know, emotion? Don't you experience more emotion other than envy and jealousy? Yeah.
So like actually right, there are some very well written female leads. They have motivations beyond just love. It could be like politically driven, it could be like family revenge and stuff like that. You'll be able to empathize with them and you wouldn't think that, oh, they are just like some jealous bitch and you will never root for them. You will actually empathize with them because you'll be seeing maybe like a difference in the capability of the female lead and the supporting female lead, which might justify why they are doing certain things.
Okay, to bring an example of such a case, I didn't watch the drama, but I kind of know what the premise is because I read the book. There's this show called 知否知否 in 绿绯红 show. We kind of mentioned it. I don't know what the English name is, but essentially it talks about a family of daughters, and also that as in it talks about a family that is very wealthy of a public official. I think it is based in Song Dynasty, but it is fictional. So like the entire thing is fictional. Essentially, it talks about the struggles of a 庶出女儿 in a big family like that. So 庶出 and 嫡出 is basically if you are, because you can have multiple wives and concubines in ancient China, but you only have one wife. Like the rest are all concubines. Not say concubines, but like mistresses, I guess. So this girl, like the female lead, is the daughter of a mistress. So you are awarded a much lower social status if you're not the daughter, like if you're not the child of a of the actual wife.
I think 庶出 also has like a connotation of your mom is actually of low commoner status.
Yeah. So basically, it talks about societal struggles and stuff like that. So in this drama, the kind of supporting leads for the female characters are other daughters in the family, and there is a sense of envy and jealousy, but those are not their entire character designs. Like they are very distinct human beings, and a lot of the things that they do because they have generational trauma, or they have kind of gaps in education because of the way that their mothers see the world. So their mothers kind of influence them through education, and that shapes their personalities to be very competitive, to be very petty, but you kind of see, like you mentioned, they are vying for the male gaze, they are vying for male attention, they are trying to struggle to survive in a patriarchal society, and sometimes they act like pick me girls, but you can understand why they are the way they are, because the story is so well written in a sense that it explains their character motivation, it explains their upbringing and what influenced their morality and sense of morals. So it can be well done, is what I'm trying to say. Like, just because there are things that are unlikable about a character doesn't mean that the character is poorly written. I think that's what we're trying to explain. Yeah, so moving on to another trope, which is the 御姐 or 事业女主 kind of trope. So 御姐 is a kind of term that
御姐 actually comes from Japanese.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I remember because 年下 also comes from Japanese, like 年下男. Yeah, so 御姐 actually the word 御 is a prefix that you put in front when you use honorifics. That's why 御姐. Yeah, because that person is older than you, so you must respect them. Yeah, okay.
In the context of what we are trying to explain, 御姐 characters are usually older women. So think 30s and above. Like rarely are 御姐 characters in their 20s. They're usually in their 30s or older, and they tend to be very strong, like genuinely strong, independent women, and they tend to be very career focused. And like you mentioned, the character design and like costume and makeup, they also tend to be very 脸谱化 in the sense that most of them have the same hair and makeup. It's the bright red lip, the eyeliner sharp enough to kill a man. That Taylor Swift lyric.
Eyebrow on flick.
Eyebrow on flick. Like their makeup is like flawless. They arrive in the office in like stiletto heels, and they're ready to kill a bitch with their like slick hair, no straightened hair, and like power suit.
Yeah, blazer.
Yeah. And you know the signature red lip. Yeah, and a lot of the times they are like high-ranking officials. Not say officials, like high-ranking, but like management roles in corporate settings, and they are very like, I am self-driven, I am a hustler, I am career focused,
I don't need no man, I'm just here for money.
Yes, correct. Think like there's this US movie, Miss Sloane, but think like that. that kind of. Miss Lone is like basically this very career-driven woman that she literally has no like romantic relationships. Like she has no life. She just is career-driven.
Nice.
Yeah. So the problem is, this sounds like an archetype of a woman, which is not completely problematic, except that in Chinese dramas, more often than not, they will pair this kind of women with younger male love interests.
Like a small puppy.
Yes, and they call it 姐弟恋, which is in Mandarin is older sister, younger brother love, but not incest. Like yeah, but like basically they're trying to explain the age gap.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and then like it's almost like a Hallmark Christmas movie. The premise of the show is always the same. You have this strong, career-driven woman who is like cold and harsh and scolds her subordinates, and then she doesn't believe in love because she was heartbroken once too many times, and now she's like, my career is my life, you know. And then suddenly she meets this younger boy who's very good looking, and
he warms her heart.
And the glaciers melt, and you know, they get together. So like, there's nothing inherently wrong with being a strong, independent, career-driven woman. It's just that when you play and do it so many times and the script is the same every single time, it becomes a trope, which is why we characterize it under female tropes.
Okay, so moving on, maybe just as like a general commentary, what I want to say is like there are a lot of one-dimensional female characters, so it's like 扁平化 in Chinese, and one of them is the 圣母白莲花, which we mentioned just now. And just in general, there's a very clear distinction between who is good and who is evil, who you should protect and who you should root for in a show, and who you should just basically
oppose and like, you know, kind of root against.
Yeah, and it's also very sad that like a lot of these characters are portrayed in a way that they only have one motivation in life. It could just be like, my motivation is only love, or like my motivation is only career. But in real life, a human being is very complex, and we have a lot of different motivations, a lot of different restrictions and limitations. But a lot of these one-dimensional female characters are just drawn out from like someone's imagination without having done research into real-world situations. Yeah,
it's kind of like that TikTok trend. It's like how male writers write women.
Yes.
Yeah, it's basically like that in a sense that a lot of the times these characters, they just lack the groundedness of a real human, complex human being. And it's very patronizing because a lot of the stereotypes and archetypes and tropes that these writers put women in are either degrading, patronizing, or like infantilizing. It just doesn't serve to benefit. Like when you fail to see good representation of your gender on screen, and your gender is reduced to nothing but, you know, stupid, kind, and not worthless, but like useless in combat or in real like day-to-day life.
IQ wise.
Yeah, like when you see nothing but these kind of characters on screen, you can feel very defeated and, you know, agonized.
And you might even feel like, am I doing something wrong with my life?
Yeah, like,
why do I have so many motivations? I'm sorry for being a well-rounded individual. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the other gender, I guess, for the gender binary.
Yeah.
For male character tropes, one that is very, very common is the 霸道总裁, which translates to like what's 霸道 in English?
Like a dominant guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the dominant
dependable man who has a lot of power and can protect you and just offer you everything you need as a brainless female lead.
Yeah, so it's like the overbearing or like the strong kind of CEO. So it has to be both. This is very important. So you have to be strong, dominant, and assertive, and like all the masculine kind of things, like borderline too assertive, like borderline not consensual kind of. Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. It's really a lot of times you watch the dramas that have this kind of characters, right? You feel like calling the police.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the kind of vibe.
Also rich.
But you have to, here's the thing. You have to also be a CEO in the sense that, okay, you don't always have to be a literal CEO of a company. The reason why they call it CEO is because the male lead in this case almost always have to be good looking, rich, and powerful. Because if someone who is overbearing and strong and dominant and assertive is not any of those things, then he is someone that you call the police on. Yeah. You know what I'm trying to say?
It's like if you're rich, then it justifies it.
Yeah,
if you're handsome, it justifies it.
It justifies it.
Yeah,
so it's very frustrating. But yeah, like this is a very, very common male character trope in the sense that, like, I guess it's common for two reasons. First being that, you know, the conception and perception that women like to be protected. That's why writers keep writing this kind of characters, because women apparently self-insert, like they want to be protected by this kind of male leads. Second one is, I think actors like to act this kind of
Zhang Han
and also Hong Xiaoming.
Oh my
I think
god, yes.
male actors like to take on these roles because it's very...
They can be as oily as they want.
They can be as disgusting as they like to.
They can just randomly push you against the wall and like put their face right in front of you. Because that's apparently very hot.
Yeah, that's a thing called pitong. I think that's a thing. Yeah. That's a thing in Japanese also.
Yeah.
Like, oh god, it's so unconsensual. Like the forced kiss, there's so many forced kisses. It's just so uncomfortable.
There's also the 我不要你觉得我要我觉得
yeah. But like essentially it's the let me decide for you, let me like take over, you know.
I will always make the best decisions for you.
So stupid. Anyway, yeah, but like it's very prevalent and very honestly overused, and everyone's so sick and tired of it. But apparently it works. Like, I don't know. I don't fall for it. I don't like it, but whatever floats your boat, I guess.
Yeah, actually on the flip side, I know that a lot of people hate the male lead, but they love the second lead.
Okay.
Yeah, which brings to our second point now, which is the 深情 or the 苦情男二, also known as the 备胎, which is the spare tire. So the reason why he's a spare tire is because usually he'll be there from the start to the end for the female lead. He loves the female lead. He does everything for the female lead.
He does everything right.
Yeah.
He's gentle, he's warm.
Yeah, but because he's not some aggressive, dominant man who makes your, I don't know, like, what do you call that? Who arouses you with his dominance?
It's the idea that women like bad men.
Oh yeah.
Which I do not fully agree with.
I don't agree with either. And okay, I feel like most of the time the 男二 is also cast in a like more subordinate state to the 男一. So like he is usually shorter.
Oh, really?
Than the male lead. That's what I have observed.
Okay.
They always put the the second male lead as someone who is like shorter and maybe like doesn't dress as rich or something like that.
The supporting male actor is almost always like the perfect guy, but except that he is not as perfect as the male lead. Like they have to justify it somehow. So like as compared to, so I mean this is all referencing a love triangle, which is very common not just within Chinese dramas but like all shows. But I feel like as compared to Western love triangles where there might be a bit more competition in Chinese dramas, it's very clear who is the person that's going to win in the end. Does that make sense? Like there is no suspense. You know from the get-go that this guy is supposed to be the love interest because he is somehow better, because he is rich and like more assertive and dominant. Like the female lead rarely ever goes for the tender, loving and gentle alternative.
I suddenly remember this phrase that my friend likes to use: alpha male versus beta cup.
Oh god! Okay, that's true though. That's
very true. And I feel like the way the supporting male lead
supporting male actor.
The supporting male character is being portrayed is he's so empathetic and so understanding that sometimes he might just choose to leave the love triangle just because he loves you so much.
Yeah, it's kind of that.
Which is very sad, but like the female actress don't like him, then the audience can have him.
Yeah, because there's this like meme or saying that the male actor, like the lead actor, is for the female lead. Yeah. And the supporting actor is for the audience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like we will love him instead.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like it really is kind of perpetuating the whole idea that nice guys finish last or whatever nonsense.
Oh yeah, true.
And then like you have to be like 男人不坏女人不爱, which I do not agree with, but sure.
I don't agree with that either.
Okay, whatever fuels for incels. Yeah, like honestly, it's just
oh my god, that's such a legendary quote.
Yeah, okay, moving on to the third male character trope is the 男频 or 爽文男主. 男频 stands for like
just 男人频道, because like on like a lot of web novel websites there will be like 女频男频, so like channels of novels for women and novels for men. So novels for women will be like a lot of like dominant man loves you lah, and then like
fighting over you.
Yeah, the novels for men will be like you will be like
开金手指
Yeah,
and
you level up from like a useless peasant, and then you suddenly end up becoming like the
emperor,
the king of the underworld with all the demons under you, all that kind of stuff.
yeah. So like this character trope is, I think, again, kind of telling of what screenwriters perceive of their audience. Basically, it's like 爽文男主 in a sense, like it's like literally like shock novel.
Makes you feel really good.
It makes you feel good. Like it's a feel good fantasy where the male lead, the entire story revolves around the male lead in the sense that, and most of the time it's not romance driven. That's the thing that kind of distinguishes it from a lot of female lead or female character dramas or works. It's the sense that the male character is almost always career driven and everything goes his way. Every person helps him. Everybody just gives him what he needs to advance to the next level. It's almost like playing a video game on extreme easy mode. Like it's just like you level up so fast. Every episode you're just overcoming every adversity.
And you can like unlock a lot of hidden quests.
Yeah.
So like for example, like the male lead is injured. Then he enters a cave. Then inside, right, there's a very, very high level kung fu master waiting to teach him.
Yeah, and then like all the women kind of love him and like support him in every way. They may or may not fight with each other for him, but like he gets everything he wants in life, which is very, I mean, if you
good,
need that, it feels good. At the end of the day, it's a feel good thing.
Yeah.
It just shows like the vast differences when you compare it to like what is popular in terms of tropes and cliches or amongst the female characters as compared to the male characters. It's like, oh, women want to be protected by men, they want to be saved and like like the damsel in distress, and then the man is like, I want to like conquer the world and like make everyone my bitch.
Okay, I know. In the eyes of the web novelist, okay, of course this is a generalization. All the female readers, Princess Peach. Male readers, Super Mario.
Yeah, exactly.
Hero complex.
It's the hero complex. Like, I mean, nothing against, like, whatever floats your boat, again.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we're not here to pass judgment. We're just saying that if you like this, go ahead and consume this. But I feel like the market is oversaturated with these kinds of characters, and it doesn't lend itself to any other kind of characters that could be more diverse and, I don't know, realistic.
Yeah, and like if you're trying to make a living as a writer, you might just pander to the market's desires and you just take whatever works, which in the end doesn't really create something new.
Yeah, and it just is very frustrating. But however, I would like to note that there's much less pigeonholing of like males as compared to females, like in the Chinese drama kind of scripts and screenwrites, because a lot of the times men are allowed to be a bit more diverse. There will be different types of male characters with different motivations as compared to the women who are mostly like subordinates, like kind of like accessories to men, and their motivations are not really theirs but that of like their partners or their families, which is nothing wrong. But when all your characters are like that and there's no diversity and so much pigeonholing, is not great. Yeah.
The 给编剧寄刀片, I think you should talk about it.
Okay, so another meme that happens in China is, like we mentioned, Chinese drama is severely lacking in terms of screenwriting abilities. A lot of the times, it is not the production that is at fault. It is not the directing that is at fault. Most of the time, it's like acting that's at fault. But the thing that most people have to complain about Chinese drama is the plot. And the plot is reliant on the screenwrites. So it's gotten to a point where people will jokingly say, I hate this drama, I hate the way that this drama turned out. They're ruining my favorite actors and actresses. They're ruining my favorite IPs. I'm going to send blades, like knife blades, to the screenwrites. Yeah, it's called 给编剧寄刀片. It's so funny because like the audience members are so agonized by what the screenwriters are doing to their favorite precious little characters and like their actors and actresses, that they are just like, you know what, screw you. Because it really plot makes or breaks a show for me, and I think for most people. No matter how good looking the characters are, no matter how good the acting is, no matter how expensive your set is and your props and costumes, if the plot makes no sense, you will just completely be out of it. You can't immerse yourself in the world if you cannot even understand or agree with the fundamental like logic of the plot.
kind of reminds me of how people are making fan-made MVs. They just cut out their favorite celebrities who are acting as a certain actor. So they remove the character from the entire storyline, which probably doesn't make sense at all. And then they just consume the nice moments where their favorite celebs look good.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, basically
They're just making music videos. Like, what's the difference between an actual show and a music video? Music video has no dialogue. It doesn't need a very coherent like storyline. You know what I'm trying to say? You just need people who look good on screen.
Yeah.
But if that's what you're trying to do, then I really can't comment any further. Like
Yeah. But that being said, we hope that everybody can remain rational and not send knives.
Like, people will actually send them death threats.
Yeah, okay, like on one hand, okay, I feel like everybody's responsible in this, but don't forget how powerful capital can be. Like sometimes,
correct.
yeah, like sometimes if the investor die wants this person who cannot act and to have maximum screen time.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, like, people put the blame on screenwrites, but screenwriting in China is a very, very kind of overworked, underpaid, miserable field of work to be in, because they don't have the authority of the directors. They don't have the speaking power of the investors. They are literally like just at the bottom of the hierarchy and food chain in the production set, and yet they are requested so much. Like, so much is requested of them. So I'm not saying that it's their fault. I'm just saying that people love to pin the blame on them. But sometimes it is their fault also. Sometimes
that's why everybody's responsible. But be a responsible person and not send knife blades. Thank you. Before this episode gets too long, we're gonna stop our rant, but stay tuned for the next episode where we'll cover interesting phenomenon unique to Chinese dramas, including makeup that seem to stay the same all the time, voices that don't match the actors, and seemingly frivolous censorship.
Time for us to shout out our social media.
Yeah, so you can follow us on Instagram at china.through.sglasses, where we share highlight reels and engage with all of you listeners. We also upload them on YouTube Shorts. As for our podcast,
you can hear our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get them. We are also on YouTube, so if you want, you can subscribe to us. With that, we come to the end of our episode. Hope you can join us next week. Bye!